Lesson 12. My goodness, I can't believe it's already lesson 12. Mental exercise and stress reduction. You know, we've learned so many things, and I hope that we have stretched your brain, because whenever you learn something new, your brain makes a new connection. When you stop learning, your brain actually starts to disconnect itself. So work your brain. The more you use it, the more you can use it. Will Rogers once said a long time ago, the brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, the more you can use it. New learning makes new connections in the brain. No learning causes your brain to disconnect itself. Your brain is like a muscle. You have to use it to get stronger. So you want to strive to learn something new every day. It's never too late to start learning new things, but it's easier when you're young. So in new learning, we want to praise the desired behavior, like learning, not the end result. If you praise kids for being smart, they become more performance-oriented. They actually enjoy learning less. They become less persistent because they don't think you can improve intelligence. So this is very important when you have kids. Never praise them for being smart. Praise them because they work hard. If you praise a kid's effort, they actually enjoy working more. They're more persistent, and they think that intelligence can be improved with new strategies. You might have heard it said that practice makes perfect. Absolutely not true. Perfect practice makes perfect. How you practice is how you will perform. So always keep challenging yourself. Einstein said, if you spend 15 minutes a day learning something new, in a year you'll be an expert. In 5 years, you'll be a national expert. So when you're in school, find the life application in your classes, and it's always good to say, how will I apply this information? Other ways of new learning are visiting new places, joining a reading group. If you're in a job, cross-train. That means learn other people's jobs. Here at Amen Clinics, I like it when people know how to do the jobs of 2 or 3 different people, because their brain is becoming more agile, becoming stronger. So other ways to stimulate your brain: sign up for classes that are outside of your typical interests. Learn to play a musical instrument. I mean, your brain just works itself in so many cool ways. Go deeper into the things you really care about, and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, or more successful than you, because you become like the people you hang out with. Also, shake up your routine. If you're very routine-oriented, try to do things in new and different ways. Brain workouts, word games or language games tend to work out the left front side of your brain. Laughter is more working out the right side of your brain. A musical instrument helps with your temporal lobes. And new dance steps or playing table tennis works your cerebellum in the back bottom part of your brain. So just doing crossword puzzles really does, it only helps like one part of your brain. Like if you went to the gym, you would never do right bicep curls and then leave. You want to work out all of your brain. A couple of tips for mental workouts: make new learning a priority. It is really important to keep your brain connected. So when you learn something new, your brain makes new connections. So try to learn at least one new thing a day. Make new learning an important goal in your life. Cross-train. So that means whether in sports or at work, learn someone else's job. Limit TV. TV is sort of a no-brain activity. It provides everything for you. So your brain sort of goes into a sleepy mode. People who watch the most TV do the worst in school. People who have ADD is highest in kids who watch the most TV. You want to limit video games and gadgets. Video games rob time from other activities and may cause irritability in some people. That's clearly been my experience with some of my patients. In one incident, 1997, there was a new Nintendo cartoon on TV, and it had an explosion that flashed lights at 4.5 flashes per second, red, white, yellow lights, and all of a sudden, 729 Japanese children ended up in the emergency room with seizure activity. So all of this visual stimulation is changing our brains, and probably better to limit it if you don't want to change your brain in a negative way. There's new research that suggests with all the devices we have where we use our thumbs, that the representation in your brain for your thumb is becoming larger, which is good if you're a monkey, maybe not that good if you're a human. Gadgets and our gadget addictions are called the cigarettes of this century. So it's because they're addictive, they keep you from exercising, less is better. You want to learn and play new games. Word games can be useful because they tend to work out the left front language part of the brain. Social games, such as group card games, are better than non-social games, so doing it with other people. You want to practice perfectly. The brain learns what it is taught. Practice does not make perfect unless you practice perfectly. So work hard to master skills, don't cut corners. Break your routine. Do things differently to challenge your brain. Try a new sport, learn to cook a new recipe, learn a new card game. Look at similarities and differences. Evaluate how things are similar, how different pitchers, for example, in baseball, throw a curveball, ways painters can paint oceans, varying spices in meals. Similarities and differences help the brain's ability to think abstractly, and it challenges our frontal lobes. Cultivate different types of friends so you can have new conversations, challenging ideas. If you just always believe what you've always believed, you're not stretching your brain. So it's good to talk to people who have different point of views, especially when you're young, have new experiences and new things, not the same old thing. So I read brain scans. You know, here at Amen Clinics, we've done more than 125,000 scans on people from 111 countries. So if I just keep looking at the same scans, even though it's a complicated thing to do, it's really not challenging or stretching my brain. When the brain learns a new task, over time, once it's learned it, it uses less and less energy, which is why I always want you to be thinking about learning new things in different fields. So I know how to read scans. I need to do other things to keep my brain young. So you need to do what's new to you. The brain autopsy is really interesting. So after people died, they looked at their brain and they sliced it, and they found that teachers who spend a lot of their days in language tasks, talking, that the language part of their brain was really well developed, had a lot of cells. Where for farm workers, in the language part of their brain, they didn't have a lot of cells, but in the physical activity part of their brain, it was loaded. So your brain becomes stronger in what you do day to day. And that's why working out each part of your brain will help keep it stronger. Okay, now let's talk about stress. And not all stress is bad, but when it's too high and too much, it can harm your brain. So stress can be positive or negative. Positive stress motivates us to do our schoolwork or get a job, increases our immune system through exposure. So you need to stress it somewhat so your body learns how to handle it. Stress can teach us new skills, exposes us to new solutions. Negative stress, when it's too much or too long, can be really harmful. Can overwhelm your immune system, meaning it's more likely that you'll get sick. Kills cells in the memory centers of the brain. So there's this very interesting part of your brain called the hippocampus. It's a seahorse-like structure that's involved in getting memory into long-term storage. Stress tends to hurt that part of the brain. So this can lead to negative solutions that hurt your brain. So if you're stressed and you're using alcohol, or you're stressed and you're using marijuana, that can actually hurt your brain more, making you more likely to have stressful situations. So it can become a vicious cycle. So these are some of the consequences of high stress. So Alzheimer's disease, memory problems, your blood vessels won't function as well. The reserve in your brain is less. Diabetes, heart disease, clotting disorders, premature aging. You're more likely to get sick, anxiety, cancer, depression. You won't sleep, blood pressure problems. All of these things are associated with stress. When we're exposed to a frightening situation, like you walk around the corner and see a tiger, your body goes into what we call a fight or flight response. Your hands get cold, you start to sweat, your heart rate goes up, and it starts to flatten. That means heart rate variability goes down. As heart rate variability goes down, people are more anxious, actually more prone to heart disease. Breathing becomes faster and shallower because you're really anxious. Muscles get tense. And with lasting stress, so even though the tiger's gone, you never know when the tiger may come back, the brain actually gets reset to a higher level. Our bodies go into a lasting fight or flight response. We start to have physical and emotional symptoms, so headaches, tummy aches, anxiety, trouble sleeping, because your body's on this hyper alert stage. Two researchers, Holmes and Ray, actually came up with this life stress scale or life event scale, and basically said, if you look at these things that are stressful, the death of a spouse, divorce, move, financial problems, and so on, you can read this. The more you have, the more likely you are actually to get sick. If stresses start to stack, and that's what I see as a psychiatrist, when people start to have too many stresses happen at once, there's a higher incidence of them getting cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and so on. So too much stress can make us sick. If we have too many stressful life events in a short period of time, people have a much higher chance of getting sick, especially things like divorce, moves, job changes, death of a close family member, and even positive stresses. You might move because you changed your job to a new city, it's just important to have a stress management practice. So how do you de-stress the brain? Well, you have to teach the brain to relax, and when you do that, it enhances health, especially if you make this a daily practice using some very simple techniques we'll talk about. So relaxation therapy counters the fight or flight response. So warming your hands, like we talked about in the basal ganglia lecture, come up with different hand warming images and focus your mind on that. That will help you relax. Also help you lower sweat gland activity, slows your heart rate, slows and deepens your breathing. Actually, just practicing slow, deep breathing, practicing breathing mostly with your belly, it just triggers a relaxation response in your body that can lower muscle tension. Simple relaxation techniques, hand warming, as we talked about, diaphragmatic breathing, which just means breathing with your diaphragm or breathing with your belly. To do that, just like lay on a couch or on your bed or on the floor, put a book on your belly, and when you breathe in, make the book go up. And when you breathe out, make the book go down. And don't wear tight clothes and don't hold in your belly because you're trying to look skinny. That will actually make you more anxious. Meditation can help. Mental imagery, especially of relaxing images. I use that all the time when I use hypnosis with my patients. So hand warming increases blood flow to your hands, and when you do that, it sends an immediate relaxation signal to the rest of your body. It's the opposite of a fight or flight response. So come up with maybe 10 warming images and just think about them for 2 or 3 minutes at a time and see which one is the best one for you. The sun, puppies, warm sand, fire, holding a cup of hot cocoa or green tea, holding someone's warm hands or skin. That's what tends to trigger that relaxation response in your body. So again, diaphragmatic breathing, lie on your back, place a small book on your belly. When you inhale, make the book go up. So I like to think of it like little tiny holes in your feet. When you breathe in from those little tiny holes in your feet, it'll make your belly big. And when you breathe out, when you exhale, make the book go down, which means you're going to blow out all the air in your lungs. But do it more from your belly than from your chest. Whenever you feel stressed, anxious, or tense, take a deep breath, hold it for 4 or 5 seconds, and then slowly exhale. Take 6, 8, 10 seconds to completely blow that breath out. You repeat this about 10 times, odds are that you're going to start to feel much more relaxed. And it's so easy to do. You got to practice it so that when you start getting anxious, you know how to do it. So here is a drawing of lungs, and here's your diaphragm. That's the big muscle in between your lung cavity and your belly. It's shaped like a bell. And when you breathe in, if you stick your tummy all the way out, what you're doing is flattening your diaphragm, which nearly doubles your lung capacity and makes you feel more relaxed. So here's one of my patients who I taught how to breathe slow and deep, mostly with their belly. So these 2 lines, one of them is a gauge around their belly, the other one is around their chest. So the big wave is the one around their belly, so they're breathing slowly, deeply, mostly with their belly. And then with their eyes closed, I had them think about the last time they were angry, and look at what happens to the breathing. I basically stopped breathing. And your brain is the most oxygen-hungry organ. And so when you stop breathing or breathe too fast, your brain starts to go into a panic state. And one of the ways to break the panic attacks, slow, deep breathing, mostly with your belly. Meditation can help. It's actually very powerful, and it's been known for thousands of years to calm people down. There are many different forms of meditation. Most are really simple. Many of them focus on breathing. And meditation's been shown to improve both your physical and mental health. There's a type of meditation called the relaxation response, was developed by Dr. Herb Benson from Harvard. Sit quietly, breathe slow and deep, and say to yourself the word one every time you exhale or every time you breathe out. I mean, how simple is that? So sit quietly, eyes closed, and when you take a deep breath and blow out, just silently to yourself, say the word one. And people who did that for 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes a day, their blood pressure was less, headaches were less, tummy aches were less, anxiety, stress, and depression were less. It's like, how simple is that? Meditation actually fooled us with imaging, that we thought meditation would calm the brain. Absolutely doesn't do that. Andy Newberg, when he was at the University of Pennsylvania, published studies on Tibetan monks and Franciscan nuns during prayer and meditation. He found it helped balance brain function. He wrote about it in his book, Why Won't God Go Away? He actually found that during meditation, using SPEC studies, the same study we've been talking about in this course, it activated activity in the front part of the brain. One of my favorite kinds of meditation is called the loving kindness meditation, which is really teaching you how to develop feelings of goodwill and kindness toward others. Now, it starts with yourself, because if you don't love yourself, really hard to be loving toward others. But doing this specific meditation has been associated with increased gray matter. That means more brain cells and more processing units to help you think and feel better, increase positive emotions, but it decreased pain, migraines, and symptoms of PTSD. Actually, before I do that, let me show you how to do a loving kindness meditation. This is actually my favorite meditation. So it's first practice toward yourself. So close your eyes, sit quietly, and just repeat phrases like, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be at peace. So find 3 or 4 statements that you really like. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be at peace. And repeat that 4, 6, 8, 10 times. And then think about someone you're grateful for. Your mom, your dad, your siblings, your friends, your teacher, and say, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be at peace. And then find someone you're sort of neutral about. You really don't like them, but you don't dislike them. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be at peace. And then think of someone you don't like. Someone who's bullied you, or someone who's hurt you, or someone who's diminished you. And repeat it toward them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. And the research on this meditation is stunning. When you focus on what you hate about your life, your brain doesn't work right. It tends to disrupt your brain. But when you focus on loving kindness, it helps to balance your brain in a good way, and you feel so much better. There's another concept I developed that I really like, and that is developing a concert state for your brain. Well, what's that? What's a concert state? It's where your body is relaxed, but your mind is really clear. Can happen with diaphragmatic breathing, with the loving kindness meditation. When you exercise to music it can help. And there's actually a piece of music that's been well studied, Mozart's Sonata in D for 2 pianos, K448, that it actually helped with focus and it lowered blood pressure. Also, learning a musical instrument goes obviously with new learning, but also helping you develop a concert state for your brain. I want you to start each day with intention, gratitude, and appreciation. As we talked about before, today is going to be a great day. And then one thing you're grateful for, be your health, home, job, kids, church, cat, whatever. And one person you appreciate. And then take another minute and let them know. Send them a note, send them a text, send them an email, or tell them, I just really appreciate you. How do you improve decisions? Because ultimately, we did this whole Brain Thrive by 25 course for you to have better decisions, because with better decisions comes a better life. So here is someone I actually saw on the Dr. Phil show. He had cheated on his wife 8 times in the last 4 years when I saw him. And she actually had to give her gun away because she wanted to shoot him. So it was very tense. And when I saw Jose, you can see in his frontal lobes where the red circle is, he's got holes in his frontal lobes. He played football in high school. He was a boxer and a mixed martial artist. And when I saw him, and he said this first softly under his breath so I could barely hear him, because I asked him about head injuries, and he said about football and mixed martial arts. And then he said, and I used to break bottles with my skull. And I'm like, excuse me? He said, well, it was sort of like a party trick. I could take a beer bottle and break it with my skull. And I'm thinking to myself, that is not the sign of intelligent life. And he said, and it was sort of like a party trick. I could put holes in doors with my skull, and I could find studs in the wall with my skull. And I'm like, no wonder your wife wants to shoot you. But once he saw a scan, and he really wanted to be married, once he saw a scan, he just did everything I asked him to do, which is what we've been talking about in this course. He ate better. He slept better. He took some targeted supplements like a multiple vitamin and fish oil. And 6 months later, so he stopped cheating. He became more thoughtful, more loving. Actually went back to college and became a nurse. But 6 months later, he told me that they were on vacation together and they were thinking of having another child. And he was a thrill seeker. And they were in Hawaii, and he saw a cliff where people were jumping off the cliff 60 feet into the water below. And he's like, oh, I got to do that, because that's what he's used to doing. But when he got to the top, and came his turn in line to jump off the cliff, he looked down at the water and realized he couldn't see the rocks. So now he has forethought. He's thinking, well, do I really want to jump? What if I break my neck? Well, how will that impact my life and my wife and my kids? And so he got out of line and he started thinking about, do I really need to do this? And then he walked down the hill. And his wife's like, what's the matter? Why aren't you going to jump? And he's like, I just don't need to do that anymore. And when I heard that story, I scanned him again. And you can see how we gave him frontal lobe function. I love that. Forethought, judgment, better decisions. And he and I together, we planted these 2 little words in his head. Then what? If I say this, well, then what happens? If I do this, then what happens? So you can change your brain. And when you do, you change your life. Then what? Carry those 2 words around with you everywhere you go. So my goal with this course, and Dr. Payne and my goal with this course, was not to get you to do what we want you to do. Our goal was for you to ask yourself, what do you want? Relationships, work, money, your physical, emotional, and spiritual health. What do you want? And then ask yourself, does your behavior get you what you want? And these two words are so critically important. Then what? If I do this, then what happens? If I say this, then what happens? The best way to reduce stress in your life is stop screwing up. I love that quote from Roy Baumeister. He's been studying willpower for a long time. And the better decisions you make, the more you will love your life. So you make better decisions when you know what you want, when you know your motivation. If you say, then what? If you have a stable blood sugar. I treated a very famous musician who got in trouble all the time. And when I evaluated him, his blood sugar level is really crazy low. And so having him eat four or five times a day healthy stuff, he's not been in trouble since. There's this fascinating study where scientists looked at 107 married couples, and they tested their blood sugar levels at the end of the day. And then they asked the couples to put pins in voodoo dolls to express their feelings about their spouse. And people had the lowest blood sugar had more pins in the dolls. In fact, the lowest scores pushed twice as many pins in those who had the highest blood level. So you always want to protect your blood sugar levels, or you may get into trouble. You may have more problems in relationships. And how you protect your blood sugar levels is going to sound counterintuitive, as you get rid of the sugar and the foods that turn to sugar, and you eat more protein and fat. In fact, people who eat fish, baked or grilled fish, once a week, had more gray matter in their brain than people who didn't. So, get sleep. 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep at night for young teenagers, because growth hormone, you want to be taller? Growth hormone actually works more effectively when you're asleep. So sleep is absolutely essential. Little to no alcohol. Alcohol is associated with many bad decisions. You also want to make sure your vitamin D level is healthy. So I think everybody should get their vitamin D level tested. And I'm a huge proponent of eating fish. That'll raise your omega-3 fatty acid level, or taking an omega-3 fish oil supplement. You want to avoid foods that can lower brain function, dairy and wheat. So you should just check and see if you're sensitive to them. You want to surround yourself with like-minded people. This is probably the best advice I'm going to give you. You become like the people you hang out with. And I always say the fastest way to get healthy is to find the healthiest person you can stand, and then spend as much time around him or her as possible. So if you want to be a drug addict, you hang out with drug addicts. If you want to be someone who's successful in business, hang out with people who are successful in business. You want to be able to really be useful in your life and give back, because that's what gives you meaning and purpose. That's true for me. Hang out with people who give back and have meaning and purpose in their lives. You also want to eliminate the little lies that drive failure. Those are the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. Things like, I'll start Monday. If you don't start today, you're probably not going to start at all. Everything in moderation. I always say everything in moderation is sort of the gateway thought to cheating. I'm not a fan of moderation. I want you to be in love with your brain, and always, or at least as often as you can, do the right things for that. Or other people go, well, it's Saturday, so I should hurt my brain. It's like, no. Or it's the holidays. Do you ever wonder why we do bad things to celebrate Easter or 4th of July? So what does this all mean? New learning boosts your brain. No learning is bad for your brain. Some stress is important, but too much stress hurts you. Engage in regular stress management techniques like loving kindness meditation or diaphragmatic breathing or hand warming, and always work to improve your decisions. And with a better brain, always comes a better life. Do you know why? Because the quality of your decisions will go up, and you're more likely to make happen in your life a life that you feel proud of. Well, now we came to the end of the course, and I am just so grateful that you stayed with us. This course has been a labor of love. I know Dr. Jesse Payne thanks you. Our teen panel is really grateful that you're with us. And I think of all the things in my life I've done, this is one of the most special. I remember what it's like to be a teenager, and I wish someone would have told me when I was a young adult, when I was 18, 19, 22, even 25, my brain wasn't finished developing, and there were things I could do to make it better because it would help make the rest of my life better. So some of the highlights I really want you to get from Brain Thrive by 25. The first one, fall in love with your brain. It controls everything you do, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you get along with other people. When it works right, you work right. But when it's troubled for whatever reason, as you saw, it can interfere with school. It can interfere with your loved ones and your relationships. It can interfere with work. It can interfere with your money. It can interfere with you having your best, deepest sense of meaning and purpose. But if you've not been good to your brain, you can make it better. But you never want to use that as an excuse to not get better starting today. You want to go, I love my brain. I'm going to take care of it because it takes care of me. And then, of all the exercises we talked about in Brain Thrive, one of my favorite ones is Chloe's game, from my daughter who you saw on the panel, is just ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? And if you developed brain envy, if you care about it deeply, then more often than not, you're going to choose what's good for your brain. And one of the big things I've learned as a psychiatrist for 35 years is when you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up. It's just not helpful. Be curious about what happened, not furious to yourself. I'll tell you a funny story. So this father brought his 2 teenage kids to see me because they were completely out of control. Temper tantrums, drug abuse, running away from home. And it took me like almost a year to get things settled down in this family to a point where the kids were really loving their life and beginning to build back trust with their parents. And then the dad came to see me because he wasn't healthy. And what I discovered in working with him is that he kept eating bad food and not sleeping and having other bad habits because he didn't want to deprive himself. And I'm like, say that again. Well, I don't want to deprive myself. And I'm thinking to myself, he's not being a very good parent to himself. So he's letting the 4-year-old inside his head run his life. And I don't want to deprive myself. He was sort of having his own temper tantrum. And I said, do you remember how hard it was to get your kids sort of back to being okay? What would happen if your kids threw a temper tantrum and you just gave in to them? You know, you told them no, they had a fit, would scream, yell, throw things, and then you'd say yes. He said, well, I would just teach them that they had to have temper tantrums in order to get their way. I said, but aren't you doing sort of the same thing? When you feel like you don't want to deprive yourself, aren't you really giving in, making the bad behavior more likely to recur? And he's like, oh, I never thought about that. By doing the right thing, you are helping your brain, so you're being your brain's prefrontal cortex, you're helping your brain develop the right habits. And remember how we talked about who has more fun? The person with the good brain or the person not with the good brain? How you help yourself thrive by 25 and the rest of your life is you know what you want. And then like a good parent or good prefrontal cortex, you supervise your behavior and you just ask yourself this one question. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? We are rooting for your success. We want you to tell us how this course has helped you in your life and maybe even how you've been able to take this information and help someone else's life. For it is in the giving that we receive. That's why we do this course, because we know what a difference it makes, and that's what makes us happy. Tell us how Brain Thrive by 25 has helped your life and how it's made you and those you care about happy. Thanks so much.